Let's head on over into our Wednesday segment for Liberty Conspiracy and, of course, our segment for the former Star Trek Writing Fellow channels on Rumble and on YouTube. Please sign up. After the fact, please do so. We'll give you the inside scoop of what it's like to work at Star Trek Voyager, where I was, what it's like to work at the Outer Limits, where I worked, what it's like to write prose fiction, short stories, long form fiction, all that stuff. And we need an intro. So let's go with, you got it, my friends, the control voice with the Outer Limits.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharpen it to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
All right, Outer Limits. Awesome stuff, man. That was so much fun. And I loved living in Vancouver. I love living in the city. Well, tonight, everybody, since we were just talking about habeas corpus and the 17th century, even going back to Magna Carta in the 1200s of the great Anglo-Saxons, and we heard Douglas McGregor talking about the Anglo world. Unfortunately, the Western hegemonic warfare mongers out there are giving a bad name to the Angles, unfortunately. But let's talk a little British history, mythology, and a wonderful, wonderful writer whose talents were just so broad that I really want to recommend him to you. This is one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite books, and of course it allows us to correct some myths or some errors about a myth, and maybe not necessarily a myth. So I want to show you first off this book, The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. Now this, by Howard Pyle, is, in my opinion, the best version of this great mythological story. A legendary story, a heroic story. And Howard Pyle, we're going to talk about him as an author in a second. But first, I want to tell you about this series of books, okay? You'll see the number 9. This is a beaten up version of, I have a couple other versions of this, a couple other copies of this, from Ecuador Classic Library. And these are published maybe around 1970 or so, 71 maybe. And they are annotated. They're annotated classics. And they're wonderful for kids. They give you all sorts of great information about terminology at the time, so you learn as you go. They are not abrogated in any way. They are the full stories. And they had a series of these, maybe 14, 15 of these. Everything from this to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, to things like Paul Bunyan and other wonderful, wonderful classics. And they're terrific hardcovers, beautiful artwork inside them. And what I want to mention to you is that, first off, let's talk about Robin Hood. So a lot of people say, you know, first off, Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave to the poor. That's false. So, for example, if you go to Sheffield, you'll see the statue of Robin Hood. It's right near the university. Nottingham. But he didn't steal from the rich and give to the poor. And even on the statue, they don't have it right. He was a tax protester. He was a violent tax protester. And he was taking back money that the royally privileged, through the Sheriff of Nottingham, were taking from the common people. He was standing up to the tax man. and taking the money back, right? So as Midnight Oil sang in one of their, easier listening songs, it belongs to them. We got to give it back, right? Beds Are Burning. Their earlier albums are better, in my opinion. And then later when they came out with Redneck Wonderland, that also was really epic, really good album. So Robin Hood, not that case. That's not the story of Robin Hood. He was not stealing from the rich, giving it to the poor. He was taking it back from the rich who had taken it, the royal bloodline. So a variation of it belongs to them, we got to give it back. So that's what he was doing. And the reason he was an outlaw is because in the beginning of the story, he's suckered. He's going to go off to an archery competition. He's a young guy. And he's thinking he's going to win over a girl's heart, this whole thing. And he sees this guy who says, "Hey, see that deer in the forest over there?" On his way to the competition. This guy, he says, "Yeah." He says, "Think you can hit that deer from here?" He says, "Oh yeah, no problem." And he hits it. And then the guy reveals that that's the king's forest. And of course, that is land that the king and the royal peers took from the commoners over the course of many, many years, right? Now, this is all incorporated into what is the Robin Hood legend. And if you do some research on Robin Hood, and Howard Pyle, one of the great things, I'll tell you more about Howard Pyle in just a minute, an American writer. One of the great things about Howard Pyle is he loved heroes. And so these stories about these people who stood up against tyranny and did great heroic things and bonds of friendship, they're really strong. So the relationship, his friendship with Little John is just wonderful. And it really pays off as you get to the close of the story. It's just great. But there are various figures throughout British history, Anglo-Saxon history, that actually either were named Robin Hood or variations of Robin Hood. And there does seem to have been a guy in the 1100s who was an original, like, Robin of Locksley type guy. And then it looks like other people subsequent to that tax protester picked up the mantle and used the name. This is what I've been able to find in my research on Robin Hood. So Howard Pyle has written the definitive story, The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. And this version has amazing artwork in it. There's Friar Tuck right there. Right? Amazing artwork. And what many people don't know is that Mr. Pyle did his own artwork in many, many areas. So I want to give you some information. If you go to Fantastic Fiction, here's more about Howard Pyle. Howard Pyle. Wow, what an amazing guy. Howard Pyle was an American illustrator and writer. Notice how they have illustrator first. Interesting. I didn't know until later that he drew many of the pictures that are in this book, and I didn't know what a fine artist he was. Not just sketches or illustrations for books, but we're talking fine oil paintings. Really good, really amazing artwork, like Dutch realist action. Howard Pyle was an American illustrator and writer, primarily of books for young audiences. A native of Wilmington, Delaware, he was born in 1853 and he died in 1911. He spent the last year of his life in Florence, Italy. In 1894, he began teaching illustration at the Drexel Institute of Art, Science, and Industry, now Drexel University. And after 1900, he founded his own School of Art and Illustration, later called the Brandywine School. Very key. There's a whole school of art that is based on that, and much like the John Singleton Copley School of Art in Boston. It's a branch, right? And again, very, very similar to Dutch realist. Some of his more famous students were Olive Rush, N.C. Wyeth, Frank Scovener, Eleanor Abbott, and Jesse Wilcox Smith. High praise there. His 1883 classic, The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, remains in print to this day, and his other books, frequently with medieval European settings, include a 4-volume set on King Arthur that cemented his reputation. And that is great as well. And the great thing about that and Robin Hood, but particularly about that, is the way that he depicts these characters as such good and noble people. Really, really interesting. And funny scenes too, people going in disguises and all sorts of cool stuff. He wrote an original work, Otto of the Silver Hand, in 1888. He also illustrated historical and adventure stories for periodicals such as Harper's Weekly and St. Nicholas Magazine. His Men of Iron, I have that book, was made into a movie in 1954, The Black Shield of Falworth, Falwrth. Now, just to let you know, The Men of Iron, I'll show you that one at a different time. I can show you the cover actually here on the screen. But that's a really neat little story about a kid who is in medieval days and a knight comes to visit and has to stay with them and what he learns from the knight and chivalry and things like that. Howard Pyle traveled to Florence, Italy to study mural painting in 1910 and died there in 1911 of sudden kidney infection. So I'll just show you here again. All great respect to Howard Pyle right there, 1853 to 1911. And what wonderful entertainment and messages he brought to so many people. His voice coming through here. And when they say original works, yes, this Merry Adventures of Robin Hood is based on the legend of Robin Hood, but this is an original novel, just like his story of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. Every one of those, it's his own writing based on a legend. It's not like he's, transcribing a film script or something. And I just highly recommend these, especially if you have children and you can read them together. My dad and I read Robin Hood together. And when we got to the ending, it was just, I'll never forget it. It was such a wonderful moment for me, for my father and I. It was just terrific. Now, I want to show you some of his books. And you can see some of these are here. For example, there's the story of King Arthur and his knights. This is fantastic fiction. Again, this used to be fantasticfiction.co.uk. And since this is in the public domain, there are a lot of versions out there. There's a Signet Classic. You'll see that right there. You can go to Amazon, see the Signet Classic, the story of King Arthur and his knights. Wonderful stuff, okay? But in addition to that, you also will be able to find that a lot of these are available over at either Project Gutenberg, or you can find them at the Internet Archive. Now, let me show you Men of Iron over here. This is the version that I've got. I got this through Amazon. That is a painting by Howard Pyle. And that is beautiful. Wow. Just amazing. And if you want to see some of his paintings and you're ever in the New England area, then what I recommend is please head here to Rhode Island. This is the American the Museum of North, I believe, American Illustration. So Howard Pyle. Now I'll go to the main site. I keep screwing up the name. Howard Pyle. Here is some of his artwork. This is marooned. This is a pirate. Look at this. Incredible. Here's another pirate. La Salle christening the country, Louisiana. And he loved pirates. Comforting words. There's a pirate. And there's so much more. Pyle was born into a Quaker family from Delaware, and he lived his whole life there except for 2 years at the Art Students League early in his career and 1 year at its end in Italy, where he died in 1911. His family was not unhappy when he expressed an interest in studying art, although such a thought was not on a Quaker agenda. His first art teacher was Van der Weilen of the Art Students League. No wonder we have the Dutch influence there. He expected to gain an education as an easel painter, for there was no specific education for illustrators. Like most of his students, Pyle went on into illustration to earn a living at his craft, and he did. He illustrated so much, not just the fine paintings, but illustrations for newspapers, all sorts of stuff. You can see Norman Rockwell is next, Norman Price is next. So this here, National Museum of American Illustration. They are in Rhode Island, all right? And if you want to check them out, They have a Facebook page, they have a Twitter, and they're in Newport. They actually are in one of the old mansions in Newport, right along the seacoast. So if you want to take a trip, look at some of the wonderful houses in the seacoast, the beautiful lawns, the craggy rocks that go right down to the ocean in the southern portion of Rhode Island. Head to Newport, Rhode Island, go there, and go to the National Museum of American Illustration. They've got amazing stuff there, and Howard Pyle is just an amazing person. Not only did he write these stories, but he illustrated the stories. And look at the time and care that he must have taken for these. Absolutely wonderful. Just incredible. So Howard Pyle is the subject tonight, and I want to give you a little sample of what Howard Pyle is like when he writes. I'm going to go with the opening of Robin Hood, just a couple seconds so you get a taste of what Robin Hood is like. The scene where Robin meets Little John is just phenomenal. It's just fantastic. And what's really neat, too, is he actually talks to you, the reader, like you're, a youngster. He's telling you the story. So here's The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. And, of course, they have a map of Robin's England. There you go, right? So here we go. Sheffield Forest, Nottingham, so on and so forth. Here's the preface from the author to the reader. I won't read all of it, but just a bit. You who so plod amid serious things that you feel it shame to give yourself up even for a few short moments to mirth and joyousness in the land of fancy, you who think that life hath naught to do with innocent laughter that can harm no one, these pages are not for you. Clap to the leaves and go no further than this. For I tell you plainly that if you go farther, you will be scandalized by seeing good, sober folks of real history so frisk and caper in gay colors and motley that you would not know them but for the names tagged to them. Here is a stout, lusty fellow with a quick temper, yet none so ill for that, who goes by the name of Henry II. Here is a fair, gentle lady, before whom all the others bow and call her Queen Eleanor. Here is a fat rogue of a fellow, dressed up in rich robes of a clerical kind, that all the good folk call my Lord Bishop of Hereford. Here is a certain fellow with a sour temper and a grim look, the worshipful, the Sheriff of Nottingham. And here, above all, is a great, tall, merry fellow who roams the greenwood and joins in homely sports and sits beside the sheriff at merry feast, which same beareth the name of the proudest of the Plantagenets, Richard of the Lion's Heart. Besides these, there are a whole host of knights, priests, nobles, burghers, yeomen, pages, ladies, lasses, landlords, beggars, peddlers, and whatnot, all living the merriest of merry lives, and all bound by nothing but a few odd strands of certain old ballads, snipped and clipped and tied together again in a score of knots, which draw these jocund fellows here and there, singing as they go. Here you will find 100 dull, sober jogging places, all tricked out with flowers and whatnot, till no one would know them in their fanciful dress. And here is a country bearing a well-known name, wherein no chill mists press upon our spirits, and no rain falls, but what rolls off our backs like April showers off the backs of sleek drakes, where flowers bloom forever, and birds are always singing, where every fellow hath a merry catch to his travels as he travels the roads, and ale and beer and wine, such as muddle no wits, flow like water in a brook. This country is not fairyland. What is it? 'Tis the land of fancy, and as of that pleasant kind, that, when you tire of it, whisk, you clap the leaves of this book together, and 'tis gone, and you are ready for everyday life with no harm done. And now I lift the curtain that hangs between here and no man's land. Will you come with me, sweet reader? I thank you. Give me your hand. And a better opening I can't imagine. Isn't that great? Long gone, Howard Pyle, still sincerely offering that loving touch to say, give me your hand. I'll take you on a great journey. Take you along. It's like my mom. She used to tell stories on St. Patrick's Day about Hattie the leprechaun, who would take the kids over the rainbow. We'd go on adventures, flying on the rainbow, and he would take us along. That's what Howard Pyle does. And again, I'd like to give you just a quick overview of some of the Howard Pyle work. So if you go to fantasticfiction.com, it used to be .co.uk, you'll see the list. There's the round table stories there, all 4 of them. King Arthur and his knights, Champions of the Round Table, Lancelot and his companions, and the Grail and the Passing of Arthur. You can listen to audio versions of these. They're wonderful. You can take them in little bits at your lunchtime. We have, of course, Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, written in 1883. Otto of the Silver Hand, great adventure story. Men of Iron, about the knight who shows up at a place where he's got to stay over and the little kid learns from him. Twilight Land, great fantasy story. The Garden Behind the Moon, The Book of King Arthur, and King Stork. And then here, you've got his Tales of Pirates and Buccaneers, again with his artwork. Look at that. Just beautiful. And if you like pirate tales, you'll love his stuff. Just awesome, 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 awesome. And yeah, just fantastic. If you get the opportunity, check them out. Let me show you just real quick one other little item here. This is some of what he actually did for the cover, if this cover will pop up. Yeah, here's one of his pen and ink, black and white, right there. That's what he could do. Isn't that great? I mean, just the covers, you know, the hand that does it. Look at the dog, the bunny, the rabbits. Great. Great stuff. So check them out, especially if you have kids. I heartily recommend The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. It's such a great story with such a wonderful lesson about friendship and morality and fighting oppressive authority and local control, local communities, being tricked by someone and turning into a real noble person, fighting for the woman you love. Great stuff. Can't go wrong. Good stuff. Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. I would read to you the section where Robin meets Little John on the log, and somebody's got to give, because only one person can cross over the river on the log. But we'll do that at a different time sometime. I think you really enjoy it. And what a legend, Robin Hood. Awesome stuff. So thank you, everyone. I'll just check in real quick to say hi inside the X chat and inside Rumble chat. I hope you appreciate that. Spirit of the Age says, yeah, thanks, Gard. Great highlight. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And definitely, what would be really great is if we had enough people who were close by and could head on over to Rhode Island, spend a few hours in the museum, get some lunch, hang out. Wouldn't that be great? That would be a blast. That would be fun. We could read segments and stuff like that. That would be awesome. You know, swear oaths of fealty to each other. We'll fight the oppression. That would be awesome. Anyway, thanks again. And thanks for watching. If you're watching this on the former Star Trek Writing Fellow channel, if you're new to that channel, you know, I'm doing this live right now, but after the fact, please spread the word about the channel. If you're watching this live, you can head over to the YouTube and Rumble channels and sign up. That would be phenomenal. We're going to do a lot more there, a lot more readings, short story readings, interviews with writers, and of course, background information. I'm actually going to draw stuff out on how we used to do stuff on script departments and things like that. And you'll see the one picture of me, which is not me, at Star Trek Voyager, because I was actually away at lunch. They had somebody else standing in my place. They had to get the picture done. It was for a book on Star Trek Voyager. It was pretty funny, actually. Rob Doherty stood in my place instead. So that was funny. So I'll leave you. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to actually leave you with the Outer Limits theme, and we'll say goodnight for the night. I really appreciate you being here. See you in David Knight's chat tomorrow. Again, sign up, sign up as a subscriber or whatever for my Substack. You can support the show that way, the Gardner Goldsmith Substack. Every time somebody does that, every once in a while, somebody a couple bucks a month, that is really helpful. It's a big deal. So I appreciate it. And we'll do a lot more to try to give you great value. So we'll keep fighting for freedom. And of course, we'll say goodnight. Peace. Love. God bless.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to the outer limits.